Hey guys, so today I have a fun video. I am going to be going kind of rapid fire through every brand that I own at least a handful of products from, and I'm going to be sharing my #1 product from each brand. I'm going to be doing both high-end and drugstore. I think I'm going to start with high-end and then do drugstore in like the second half of the video. I don't have quite as many high-end brands to talk about. So the first high-end brand that I have is ABH, or Anastasia Beverly Hills, and this is probably one of the first high-end brands I ever really got into, and I have several of their palettes. I love their eyeshadow palettes, but my #1 product from ABH is actually not a palette. It is their Dipbrow pomade. The reason why this is my #1 is because I use this every single day, whereas their palettes, you know, I use them from time to time, but there's not a single one of those that I'm using every single day. This is one of my most used products in my whole collection, and I love it so much. I've talked about this a lot on my channel, so I won't spend too long on this one, but one reason I love this so much is that I've found a shade match that is perfect for me, and it is just the shade Taupe. This is my perfect brow color. It's very creamy. You do kind of have to get the hang of like how much to pick up on your brush at first, because when I first got this, it was so creamy and I was not prepared for how pigmented it would be if I like actually dug my brush in there. So I just barely tap my brush in there and slowly fill in my brows, and it just looks perfect. It's my favorite way to do my brows. And the other reason I love it is because while it is a high-end product, it has outlasted any drugstore brow pencil that I've tried. I've had this open for well over a year now, using it almost daily, and I only just recently hit pan on it, and I probably have at least another year or two left in here. So incredible value, and it has not started to dry out at all. The next high-end brand that I have is Aether Beauty, and this is one that I didn't try until a little bit more recently, but I have several products from them, and I love so many of their products, and I also just love the company as a whole. They are very mindful about their packaging and their ingredient sourcing and all of that, and I love the company. My #1 product from Aether is their Rose Quartz palette. I'm just obsessed with this palette. Lately, it's like all I really want to use. I've had to like force myself to use other things, but it's just the perfect soft, cool toned everyday palette. It doesn't go incredibly deep. The deepest shade is this kind of dark gray here. So if you like a lot of like depth to your shadows, you may not love this palette. The mattes in here are so perfect. I don't even quite know how to describe them. I don't even normally like matte eyeshadow that much, but these just blend so well. They work together so well. I just feel like every shade in here was so intentionally chosen because they work together perfectly. The only thing I'll say is that the 4 shades in the middle, those are kind of an interesting texture. They are a little bit more sheer, but if I apply them over a glitter primer, they are so intense and so beautiful. They're all kind of duochrome shades, and they also work nicely as like a soft, almost topper shade as well. So it's just the perfect palette for me. If you like these kinds of colors, I think you would love this palette. It is expensive. I would say don't buy it full price, wait for a sale, because they have sales on their website all the time. So just wait for a sale and thank me later because it's amazing. All right, the next brand I have is Urban Decay, and until last year I really hadn't tried much from them, but I am now on their PR list, and they have sent me their most recent couple of palettes and a few other things. So I feel like I've gotten a good little sampling of the brand, and so far my favorite product from them is no surprise whatsoever, but it's their Stone Vibes palette. I'm still as in love with this as I was when I first got it. Highly recommend this palette for anyone who loves shimmers. I've talked about it so much, so once again, I'm not going to go into it too much here just because I don't want to bore you guys to death, but 8 amazing, beautifully textured shimmers. They are kind of a cream to powder texture, so they are kind of cushiony and squishy in the pan, and I am wearing the shade Tiger's Eye today just as a topper all over my lid. By the way, my eye look today, I copied an old tutorial from a YouTuber that I used to watch. She doesn't really post much anymore. I hope she comes back, but her name is Nicole Renee, and I also follow her on Instagram. I love her makeup style, and so I followed one of her older tutorials. I can link it below. Mine didn't turn out quite the same way that hers did, but I really do like the look, and I wasn't using the same products that she used. I was just kind of using what I had, and one of the things she did was she like topped her entire look with like a shimmer shadow, and so I ended up using that shade for that. Perfect for that. They give this beautiful just scattered shimmer to your eye. I love this palette. It is limited edition, and lately it has been on sale because this was kind of like their holiday palette last year. It's been on sale quite a bit lately for like $27, and it was originally $54. So I would say if you've been wanting it, go ahead and get your hands on it now if you think you'll use it a lot. But also, the packaging, I could just stare at this packaging all day. It is so, like, it's got this like 3D sort of raised gemstone effect to it. And it's just so pretty. So anyway, that was obviously a given if you know me at all. Okay, the next brand I have is Ofra. And Ofra, I said this was gonna be a rapid fire video, didn't I? All right, let's try to speed it up a little bit. So the next brand I have is Ofra, and generally I do feel like Ofra is a bit overpriced. Does anybody else feel that way? I do feel like their products are a little up there in price and maybe a little bit overhyped as well. However, one thing that Ofra does really, really well is lip products. I really enjoy their original liquid lipstick formula, but my number one product from Ofra is their Flexi Slick lipsticks. I have this set of 3. This was like a holiday set of theirs. The shades I have are Spark, Velvet, and Smooth. Now, unfortunately, I don't think you can buy these shades individually, but I know they have a ton of different shades in this formula, and you could probably find similar ones to these. This was their Flex With It set, so they may still sell that set. What I love about this formula is it's essentially they call it a liquid lipstick and gloss hybrid. So essentially you're getting the finish of a traditional kind of satin finish lipstick, but the staying power on these is incredible. Even the super bold shades, the red and the like berry purple, I was scared of these at first because I was like, if this doesn't dry down, these are gonna smear everywhere. No, they actually stay in place even through eating and drinking. They will stay on. They're not going to stay on quite as strongly as a liquid lipstick. They may fade a bit and they're not completely transfer proof, but that vibrant color really does stick around for a long time. And so I feel like you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. You're getting that liquid lipstick staying power without that drying feel. And they just feel very comfortable. I recommend applying a very thin layer. You really don't need much. Just take like whatever comes out on the applicator. Actually, a lot will come out. And then sort of wipe that off on the edge and just apply this to your lips. You don't need to dip back in at all as you're applying it. As thin of a layer as you can get, the better, because that's really gonna help it just stay in place. But definitely one of my favorite lipstick formulas, and just a very innovative formula, I feel like. My next high-end brand, I'm counting this as a high-end brand, even though I feel like it's a little bit more mid-range. This is the brand Clove and Hallow. Great company. I've tried several things from them. They're actually based in Georgia, which is cool. That's where I live. My favorite product from them is their Hydratint Serum Blush. Another one of those products that you've heard me talk about time and time again, but I have the shade Blossom, perfect neutral blush color, blends in beautifully, you can't mess it up, blah, 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 all the things. It's just my perfect blush. It's a liquid blush, but it doesn't feel like greasy or tacky on your skin. It does kind of set down. It doesn't dry down to like a powder finish or anything like that, but it's just a beautiful formula, and it looks like a nail polish. It's really cute. The last brand I'm considering high-end, it's really just more of an indie brand. I don't know that I would say that they're high-end. I guess they are, is Klarity Cosmetics. I have a bunch of their singles. I decided to pick my number one favorite single. So far, my number one favorite single is the shade Pretty Little Liar. It is one of their matte shades, and it is this beautiful pastel lilac pink. So pretty. This is the one out of all the ones I have that I've worn the most, so that is why I'm calling it my number one. Amazing, amazing formula. These are kind of like a pressed pigment type of shadow. So pigmented. These are like 10,000 times better than ColourPop matte singles. I do have several ColourPop singles as well, and I've tried many over the years, and they're fine for like a very budget-friendly option, but they definitely can be a bit inconsistent in terms of the pigmentation and just overall quality, and especially their mattes can be quite sheer. These Klarity singles are, you can't even compare them to ColourPop. They're just that much better. So they are a little bit more expensive, and the pan is a lot bigger, Then a ColourPop single, which I know some people don't like. I don't really mind. I just bought, I bought a separate magnetic palette just for them. So I also have one of their little magnetic trios that you can pop them out of. So a bunch of you guys have told me that you've tried them off of my recommendation and you're loving them as well. So if you're looking for a good like indie single shadow brand, check them out because they are amazing. Those are all of my high-end brands, or at least brands that I wouldn't consider drugstore. Now let's get into the drugstore brands. So I've got a good handful of drugstore brands. Let's start with my favorite drugstore brand, which is e.l.f. I have a new favorite product from e.l.f. This is my current #1. Now it does change, of course, as the seasons change and as my makeup style changes, but currently my #1 favorite from e.l.f. is their Hydrating Camo Concealer. I wish I had tried this sooner. I was so late to the party on this. I know so many people love this one. I have the shade Light Ivory. I wasn't the biggest fan of their original Camo Concealer. It's just a very matte formula, and that's not really my vibe. This looks so beautiful. It has a beautiful, they say satin finish. I would say, yeah, satin, even just a hydrated finish is what I would call it. Like, it looks like healthy skin. And I shared in a recent dupes video that this is a fantastic dupe for the Too Faced Born This Way multi-use sculpting concealer. I've loved that one for a long time, but I was looking for like a cheaper alternative from a brand that wasn't Too Faced because I'm not really a big fan of Too Faced. It is the same thing as the Too Faced one. I don't know if that's going to be the case for absolutely everybody because everybody has such different experiences with concealers. I feel like concealer is so subjective, but for me it's virtually the same product and it's like half the price. And by half the price, I mean price per ounce. All right, let's talk about NYX. I really like NYX. They're just a solid brand and they aren't as popular nowadays as they used to be, but I think we should bring back NYX. Let's do it. Let's start a hashtag to revive the brand NYX because I think they make a lot of great products and they're so accessible. One annoying thing about them is that they vary a lot price-wise. Like some of their products are $5 and some of their products are 20-something dollars. Like it's a weird range of prices, but regardless, my #1 favorite product from NYX, one that I've been talking about a lot recently, it is their glitter primer. Best $6 you will ever spend because this will basically bring to life any eyeshadow that you want, not just glitters. I had this in my collection for the longest time and I would only use it when I was using glitter eyeshadow, which was very rare. Like we're talking like the Stila glitters, those kinds of things. I would hardly ever use those kinds of products and I thought that that was the only thing that this was for. But no. The way that I use this is I still use a regular eyeshadow primer. This is not a regular primer like the Urban Decay Primer Potion or the Milani eyeshadow primer. You still need, in my opinion, you still need a regular eye primer like that. This has a slightly different purpose. So what I'll do is I'll apply my regular eyeshadow primer. I'll apply my matte shades. So usually it'll be like a little bit of a matte crease shade, maybe a couple of different mattes, some in the outer corner, etc. Then I take a tiny dab of this and just apply it wherever I'm applying my shimmer, but typically it's just right here on my lid. Tiny, tiny dab. You only need a little bit. And then I will apply my shimmers on top of that. So this is just creating like a tacky base, and it makes any shimmer 10,000 times more vibrant. Whether it's a shimmer that was kind of lackluster to begin with, or you just want it to have a foiled, like ultra sparkly effect, try this. I almost always use this with any shimmer now. The other great use for it is any matte eyeshadow, whether it's matte or shimmer, that you feel is a little bit lacking in pigmentation, put a little of this underneath and it will make any shade just pop a little bit more. So I just think this is such a useful product to have in your arsenal, and I think everybody could benefit from this product. So this is my #1 NYX product. Such a good product. There are other glitter glues, glitter primers out there on the market. I know e.l.f. makes one for like $2 or $3, so you could try that one too. I just haven't tried that one, but you know, don't spend a lot of money on them, and you could even probably wait for this to go on sale, but I just can't sing the praises of this product enough. All right, next is Milani. Now, I feel like I've tried a lot from Milani, and I don't know that I've necessarily found a ton of like really standout products from Milani. I know that they're a very popular drugstore brand. A lot of people love them, and the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I feel like a lot of the Milani products I've tried have just been kind of so-so. That's not to say that there aren't products from them that I've loved. Now, my current #1 product from Milani is, I'm really enjoying it though. This is their SPF BFF SPF 30 primer. So they call this a primer, but I really treat it more like just a typical face sunscreen, and this I am including in my yearly sunscreen video extravaganza that I'm going to be posting. I think it'll be coming at the end of April, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to be reviewing and comparing and testing on screen like 12 plus face sunscreens this time. Last year it was 6. I think I'm going to have maybe closer to 15 this year. It's gonna be epic. So anyway, this is one of the ones that I'm gonna be showing this year. So I don't want to completely spoil it for you, but I really like this one. A lot of times when a sunscreen is labeled as a primer or any kind of makeup product, I tend not to use it as like a standalone SPF, because usually with any kind of primer or BB cream, anything like that, you're not going to be applying enough of that product to get the full SPF on the label, but this I can really pile on and it sinks into my skin well, and it does work beautifully as a primer. It has this very nice, just kind of smoothing effect, and it just feels like a lotion. It's hydrating, and this is a chemical sunscreen, so you're not going to get any kind of white cast with it. Really beautiful product. I think you could use it as a primer, or you could just use it as your daily sunscreen, whether you're wearing makeup or not. So this really surprised me. I wasn't expecting to like it for whatever reason, just because I don't think I've heard that many people talk about this, but it's really nice. The only thing I wish is that it came with more product, because if this was like the only sunscreen I was using and I wasn't testing out like a million others at a time, it only comes with 1 fluid ounce or 30 milliliters, so I would fly through this if this was like my only sunscreen I was using. But I think it's $10 for 1 ounce, which is still a decent cost per ounce compared to some of the more expensive sunscreens that I like the Crave Beat Shield. It's still cheaper per ounce than that one. So anyway, really nice product. I highly recommend this one. All right, so let's do CoverGirl. I've liked a lot of CoverGirl products. My current number one from CoverGirl is actually their Exhibitionist 24-hour kohl eyeliner pencils. I have both the black and the brown. Is it dark in here? Fiddling with the lighting, so I apologize if it's changing. But the reason it's my number one is just because it is my most used CoverGirl product at the moment. I think that these are a great pencil liner. They're very creamy. They've been a great alternative for me to the Jordana 12-hour Made to Last eyeliner pencils that no longer exist because Jordana went out of business last year. Very creamy, very dark and opaque. They work great even in the waterline. Do they stay all day in the waterline? No. But then again, I don't really think that there's any eyeliner pencils out there that truly stay in the waterline all day long. I just don't even think that's possible. If anybody can prove me wrong on that, let me know. But super creamy. They do glide on to the waterline really nicely, and they do stay in place pretty well. It's just not like you're gonna get 12 hours of wear right there, you know? Today I have the brown one smudged on my upper and lower lash line. The only thing I'll say is that they are a little hard to sharpen for some reason, and I've seen some reviews that say the same thing. You can just sharpen these in your regular like pencil sharpener, but for some reason, I think because the liner itself is so kind of soft and creamy, sometimes some of it'll like break off into the sharpener, so you have to be kind of careful. I also think I need to clean out my pencil sharpener because I think there's some like product kind of gunked up in there. So anyway, that could be totally my fault, but I don't feel like that's a deal breaker though. So speaking of Jordana, even though Jordana did go out of business last year, I'm still not over it, by the way. I do still have a good handful of Jordana products in my collection, and so I wanted to still include them because I still love so many of their products. My number one from Jordana is their Easy Liner. Actually, no, this is their Draw the Line lip liner. They had the Draw the Line and the Easy Liner. They were both in like the same packaging, so I didn't really know what the difference was, but specifically in the shade Rockin' Rose, this is such a beautiful brownish rosy nude lip liner. A lot of browns I feel like will kind of pull too warm on me, but this was the perfect sort of cooler toned brownish nude liner. I'm wearing this today underneath the Dose of Colors gloss in On Repeat. Just perfect everyday lip liner. I'm sure I'll use this up at some point this year. This is all I have left. These were like around $3, just as affordable as you can get. I have other lip liners that I like, but you just can't beat the price on these, and I'm still very sad about Jordana going out of business. I'm sure you can still buy their stuff on like eBay or something for like 3 times the price, but I don't really want to do that, you know? So anyway, all right, Pacifica. So Pacifica is another brand that I want to try more from them, but I do have a handful of things that I've tried, so I figured I'd go ahead and include them in this video. I didn't include any brands that I only had like one thing from, but Pacifica I do have a handful of things from. And my favorite product from Pacifica is their A Light Clean Foundation. I'm wearing this today. I have this in my project pan currently, and I really like this. At first I didn't like it at all, but it's really grown on me, and it's a very high coverage foundation. Very dewy, which is an odd combination. Usually high coverage foundations are more matte for some reason, but this one is very dewy, kind of has a very moisturizing feel on the skin. Sometimes I feel like it can be a little over the top dewy, but I really like the look of this on my skin. I feel like it almost gives me like a porcelain looking effect to my skin, like just a very smooth look. And yeah, it's just a reliable foundation. I think the important thing is to not use too much of it, or else it can look a little heavy. Same goes for any fuller coverage foundation, but really great option. I do feel like Pacifica can be a little bit hit or miss with their products, but this is one that I think is worth it if the description sounds like something you would like. Alright, next I have a drugstore brand that I don't think you hear about very often, and I don't know if I'd really call them drugstore because they're not one that you could find in the drugstore, but they are in line with other drugstore brands in terms of price, and that is Estate Cosmetics. I probably wouldn't have ever heard of them or tried them, but they did reach out to me recently and sent me a few products in PR, and they are Leaping Bunny certified, so they are cruelty-free, which is really cool. And my number one product from them is their Do Me Baked Highlighting Powders. I have the shades Lit and Exposed. These are technically highlighters. I use the shade Lit as a highlighter, and Exposed, oh my gosh, it's getting so bright. I use the shade Lit as a highlighter, and Exposed is actually more of like a glowy blush. I have the shade Exposed on my cheeks today, and when I wear this, I really don't need to wear any kind of highlighter because this is just glowy enough as it is. Really, really pretty formula. I actually talked about the shade Lit in my dupes video. I think that this formula is a great alternative to the Becca highlighters, just in terms of how they apply very smoothly onto the skin, similar to the Becca ones. I feel like they just kind of melt into my skin in a similar way, and I really like this Lit shade. It's a nice, just kind of soft champagne-y color. And you can wear it really softly, or you can build it up to be a little bit more intense. So I just think these are a great, really under the radar product. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about these on YouTube. I did see that they have a eyeshadow palette collab with Bailey Sarian, so maybe that's one way that you might have heard of them. But yeah, cool brand. I think you can only buy them on their website. And sometimes they kind of give me ColourPop vibes in some ways. I would not recommend their little single eyeshadows that look kind of like the ColourPop ones. They sent them to me and I ended up just not even keeping them because they were really just not very pigmented at all. If you try anything from them, I'd recommend these baked highlighters. And their lip gloss is also nice. I think it's called their like lip glaze. Next, for the brand Flower Beauty, I haven't tried a whole lot from Flower Beauty, but I have tried a few things, and my number one product from them that I've tried is their Jungle Lights palette. This is relatively new to my collection, and I love this. It's an all shimmer palette, and they're all kind of a cream shadow formula, and they are just so foiled and intense. I could just sit here and swatch them all day long. Like, really great drugstore palette. It is kind of pricey for the drugstore. It's like $17 or $18, but I think it's worth the price, and if you can get it on sale, get it on sale. But just a fun palette. It really is very fun if you like very foiled shadows. Next, I have another slightly lesser known drugstore brand. I think they're gaining a little more popularity lately, is the brand Undone Beauty. I just recently did a full face of Undone Beauty. They're kind of like a minimal makeup type of brand, sort of similar vibes to Glossier, but they're a little bit more affordable. My number one product from them that I've tried so far, Nathan? Sorry, I was just looking outside to see. I think Nathan just got home. My number one favorite product from them that I've tried is their Unfoundation Matte Tint. I did not expect to like this at all. They did send this to me. I would not have picked this out for myself. This is one of the nice things about PR sometimes, is that sometimes brands will send you products that you wouldn't have thought to try yourself. and you end up absolutely loving them, and it kind of just changes the game for you. And I don't know, I'm really glad they sent me this because I wouldn't have tried this. They also make a glowy version of this, which is probably the one I would have tried. I would be curious to try that one too, but the matte tint is really nice. And the thing that this has taught me is that I don't necessarily need every single product in my routine to be labeled as glowy or luminous or hydrating or whatever, you know? I can always put this over a hydrating primer or just a hydrating moisturizer, or I can always top it with a glowy setting spray if I want to. So it's not like every single product has to be labeled glowy. And I actually really like the matte aspect of this because it just gives my skin this beautiful velvety, it looks like skin. It doesn't look like I'm wearing any kind of foundation or base product on my skin. And this is a skin tint, it's labeled as light coverage, so it really doesn't give much coverage at all. It just kind of evens out my skin tone, and I do like to use some kind of foundation type product, even if it's just a skin tint, when I'm wearing makeup, because I feel like I just need it to give me a base for other products. I don't know how true that is, but I feel like sometimes if I were to put like blush and bronzer and highlighter on, I need some sort of base to apply those on top of. And so I think this is really nice for those no makeup days. And I can always add in a little bit more coverage with my concealer if I want to, but I'm really glad that I was able to try this, and I have the shade Porcelain Light, in case you were wondering. Last but not least, I have ColourPop, and my number one product from ColourPop is their Miss Bliss palette. This is very much kind of like a one-trick pony kind of palette, very monochrome and pastel. I love these shades for spring. This palette is so effortless for me. Like, the mattes just, they blend themselves. I don't even have to like sit there and worry about blending them. They just blend right in, and then I pop one of the shimmers on and I'm done. And it just gives me such a pretty, fresh look. Pretty Fresh. That's the name of one of their foundations and concealers, right? That I haven't tried. But I don't think that this would be everyone's cup of tea necessarily, but I love it, and it is my favorite product from them. My friend also recently sent me the In a Trance palette that I think was in the same kind of series as this one. I've been playing with that one too. That one is beautiful. I still think this one is my number one though, because it's just, I love like peach and yellow and like soft pink eyeshadows. That's just my jam. So, especially if you have blue eyes. So those are all of the brands that I own at least a handful of products from, and my number one product from each one. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's just kind of a quick way to share like my absolute top picks from each of these brands. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love to see you again soon. I upload 2 to 3 videos every week all about just conscious consumerism when it comes to makeup. Obviously, I love trying new things, but I also love using and enjoying what I have and finding inspiration to use and use up what I already have. So if that sounds like something you would enjoy, I'd love to see you again, and hopefully I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.